The prank. If we prank Rima, I'll be the one who gets blamed, and I don't want to stand outside of the class again. Lalita whispered as they headed to breakfast the next morning. The dining hall buzzed with chatter. Girls in their crisp blue uniform filled the long wooden tables. Their voices echoed off the high ceiling. The smell of porridge and fresh toast filled the air. Through tall windows, mountains shrouded in mist barely revealed the sun peeking through clouds. Lalita, relax. Geeti reassured her with a grin. Trust me, this one is foolproof. Lalita sighed and gave in. Okay, but I'm not getting caught. Not this time. Geeti nodded enthusiastically and began hatching her plan, discussing it in hushed whispers between spoonfuls of porridge. We'll do it during Mrs. Dunlop's class. She never suspects me. Lalita laughed despite herself. I can already hear Rima yelling. As they filed into their classrooms after breakfast, Geeti spotted Rima and her friends huddled in the corner. They were giggling over Rima's new fountain pen, a gift from her father, imported from Germany. Rima made sure everyone noticed its gold nib and how smoothly the ink flowed. Rima was the self-appointed queen of their class, daughter of a wealthy businessman who never let anyone forget it. Her followers, twins Neeti and Priya, helped her make sure everyone knew they were St. Mary's elite. Let's make this interesting, Geeti whispered to Lalita as they took their seats. You distract them while I sneak behind. Lalita frowned. What if they catch us? Geeti smiled confidently. I've got it all under control. We'll be in and out in a minute. For just a second, Geeti wondered if this was too mean. But then she remembered how Rima had made fun of her short hair last week, calling it orphan hair. Her resolve hardened. When Rima and her friends went to sharpen their pencils by the window, Lalita deliberately dropped her books, creating a commotion. In the chaos, Geeti crept up to Rima's desk, her movements quick and careful. She unscrewed the pen barrel, emptied the ink cartridge, and then filled it with water from her bottle. That was easy, Geeti whispered, high-fiving Lalita as they returned to their seats. Lalita glanced nervously over her shoulder. Let's hope this doesn't backfire. Good morning, ma'am. The girls sang in chorus as Mrs. Dunlop entered, her heels clicking on the wooden floor. Miss Dunlop returned the greeting and gestured for them to be seated. She was a no-nonsense teacher with a reputation for strictness, but she was fair. Her silver-rimmed glasses perched on her nose as she handed out worksheets, her eyes scanning the room for any signs of mischief. Rima sat in the front row between Neeti and Priya. The twins surrounded her like matching bookends, complete with identical superior expressions. As Miss Dunlop handed out the worksheets, Rima reached for her prized fountain pen to write. The class fell silent as everyone focused on their work, but Geeti couldn't help keeping an eye on Rima. She knew it wouldn't be long before disaster struck. Why aren't you writing, Geeti? Lalita nudged her, trying to bring her attention back to the worksheet. Sure enough, after trying to write a few lines, Rima's face contorted with confusion. She pressed down harder, then shook the pen, but nothing came out, or rather nothing but clear water, dripping onto her pristine worksheet. Her frustration mounted as she watched her favorite pen fail to work. What's wrong with this stupid thing? Rima muttered, tapping it against the desk. Ugh, why is it all wet? Neeti and Priya leaned over to check the pen. They had been boasting about its quality just moments earlier, and now they looked equally confused. Priya picked up the pen, examining it closely. Her eyes widened as she squeezed it gently, and a drop of water formed at the nib. "It's full of water!" she exclaimed, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Rima's eyes narrowed as she scanned the room. Her gaze settled on Geeti, who was innocently working on her worksheet. Or pretending to. Rima stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor, and marched over to Geeti's desk. She towered over her, hands on her hips. "Well," Rima demanded, "what did you do to my pen?" Geeti blinked innocently and shrugged. "What do you mean, Rima? I didn't do anything." Then, as casually as she could, added, "Maybe it's just broken." "What's going on, Rima?" Mrs. Dunlop called from the front, her voice sharp with authority. Ma'am, she did something to my pen," Rima said, her voice wavering between anger and tears. Miss Dunlop looked skeptical. "How's that possible, Rima? Geeti sits so far away from you." "Get back to your seat and use a pencil, and don't make unnecessary excuses for not doing your work," Miss Dunlop continued, her tone leaving no room for argument. Rima glared at Geeti, who maintained her innocence. She knew Geeti was behind the prank, but couldn't prove it. And with Miss Dunlop watching, she had no choice but to retreat. As Rima stormed back to her seat, several stifled giggles erupted around the classroom. Geeti caught Lalita's eye and winked. The prank had been a complete success. That evening in the common room, the atmosphere felt different. Rima didn't seem quite as intimidating anymore. Her usual superiority dented by the pen incident. Even Neeti and Priya were trying not to smile, though they quickly straightened their faces when Rima looked their way. "You know," Lalita whispered to Geeti, "I think you actually cracked her perfect image." Geeti smiled, satisfied with her day's work. Tomorrow would bring the big exam, and she had her secret weapon ready. That wonderful word she had discovered, etc. Just thinking about it made her grin. She could hardly wait to put her foolproof plan into action.